Resellers, you have reached episode number 169 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is June 12th, 2024. My guest is Cheryl in Ohio. Quick announcement in case you did not see it. eBay is no longer accepting American Express as a payment method for both buyers and sellers. The issue is that the American Express fees are too high. My opinion, I personally don't see this as a huge deal from the buyer side of things, meaning I don't think we're going to lose a whole bunch of buyers because they're mad they can't use their American Express card, because most people have more than one credit card these days and they can just switch to something else. This change goes into effect on August 17th. So if you use your American Express for either buying or paying your seller fees, you'll want to go ahead and get that changed on your eBay account because it is going away in a couple of months. That's it for announcements. Let's get into the conversation with Cheryl.
Hello, listeners. I have Cheryl with us today, and we got busy chatting before recording, so we'll go back over some of that fun stuff you missed. How are you doing this morning, Cheryl?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for having me on. It's
Wonderful.
just a big honor.
Oh, I'm so glad you agreed to do it. Tell us where you're located.
I'm in Ohio. I'm on the east central side of Ohio, about 50 miles east of Columbus, in a little tiny town that we even have to walk to pick up our mail at the post office. We don't even have mail delivery.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Wow. You are out there.
We are.
Before we get into your story, I want to make sure I don't forget. You said you're an Amish driver. I want to hear what that's all about.
Well, we live about halfway between two pretty big Amish communities, and an Amish driver takes them to the grocery, takes them to the doctor, takes them on vacation, takes them to visit their relatives. And so we started doing it about 8 years ago. My husband got to retire early, and then he was a school bus driver, and then someone he knew did this, and he kind of got us into it, and it's been a lot of fun. We've made a lot of friends. We've learned a lot about the Amish communities, and they just call us. In fact, my husband's on a trip today. He took some ladies up to Holmes County, which is about an hour from us, to do some doctor visits and some grocery shopping. And
so you're like Amish Uber.
Exactly. That's what we are. Amish Uber. They don't drive, just their horse and buggies, and it won't go an hour and a half to Holmes County. You know, that poor horse was tuckered out by then.
Oh, so I'm assuming you get paid for this.
We do. We get paid by the mile. We
okay. Do they ever pay you with, butter and chickens and stuff?
No, but we did get some eggs from somebody who has, like you, an abundance of eggs. We did get a dozen eggs. We call that our Amish tip, is when we get eggs.
Yeah. Hey, when you have an abundance, you got to figure out how to make money with it.
That's exactly right.
That's really interesting. I didn't know there was such a thing, but that makes perfect sense. So that's a fun side job. Now, are you retired? You and your husband are retired?
We're both retired pretty much. He worked for General Electric. He worked out in the plant for almost 30 years, and then they downsized, shut down, and so he was able to retire at 49. So he's done a lot of jobs since then, and so along the way, so have I. We've had a brick and mortar store for about 10 years, and then we did eBay. We've done eBay since 98. I think our daughter kind of got us started. We used to sell these teacups and saucers that were kind of special in our brick and mortar store. And she said, Mom, I bet these would sell. There's this new thing called eBay. She said, my friend at work told me about it. She said, she collects pottery. She gets a lot of pottery there. So anyway, that was back in dial-up and one picture, and, you had to use the SD card and all that. And we sold a teacup.
Oh, yeah.
And then on. That was fun times when you get check and cash in the mail, and, it was all I miss those days. I miss the days of the feedback. I think that changed a lot when we couldn't leave feedback for a negative for a
Mm,
buyer. That
right.
changed a lot, but
So you're
I
definitely
miss,
an early adopter of eBay.
yeah.
And tell me about your store. Was it just like an antique store?
It was not. It was a coffee and tea gourmet store, and then we had a lot of pretties in with it, that kind of stuff. It was in a tourist area. It was back in the heyday of, remember Longabergers?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, we had a store there in Dresden, and back in the day, we had a lot of people walking through, but it is not something I would have done again or would do again. There's much more money to be made on eBay than there is in a brick and mortar store. They're just,
Yeah, I think with the, 24-hour access, you're open 24/7. Anybody can buy anything at any time, and you don't have my new husband is always like, "Oh, we should go check out this antique store or these antique booths." I'm like, "Well, any place where you got to pay rent, employees, utilities, generally speaking, you're not going to find stuff to flip very easily because
no,
their prices reflect all the other things they have to pay for."
right. You're right. And like with we all complain about eBay fees and all that sort of stuff, but in the end, when you compare it to a brick and mortar store and you're paying employees and, like you said, all the other expenses that come with it, at the end of the day, if we had 20% left over, we thought we were doing good. I mean, and we had a lot of foot traffic. Some in the busy seasons, we might have 49 buses come through town, in a day. That's a lot of people, in town. So, but but then in the winter when we had no buses, we might be lucky to sell a $3.50 cup of coffee. So you average that all out, and it's not all that great. So at least we have highs and lows on eBay, but like right now we're all complaining because this is kind of a low time for us. But
Right. Well, and the employee part of it for any business, it's not just you have to pay them, it's all the extra paperwork,
yeah, I know.
payroll and quarterly taxes. And
Yep.
it's the time suck of
It is.
being the owner. And I've had people working for me before, and I just decided at one point a few years ago, I was doing the virtual assistant business and all that. I wasn't getting to do the part I love. I was
Yeah,
so busy managing people and keeping up with the paperwork and getting stuff to the CPA, and it wasn't fun anymore.
no, it's
It's
and it
just because you can make money doesn't mean you should do it a certain way. You got to do it the way you enjoy it.
that makes you happy. Yeah.
Yes. So you've been there and done that.
I have, and that whole people being responsible for other people, when it's slow and you really need to lay them off. And then, there's circumstances, especially in a small town, you're like, oh,
That's going to hurt. And it's going to
anyway,
make me look like an ogre,
yeah,
like
it is.
people go, but yeah, that's hard. That's stressful.
It
And then
is. No,
you said about pottery in your area. Since I moved to the Midwest, it's everywhere.
it is.
No idea it was such a big thing. And I don't know if in Georgia and South Carolina, if I just wasn't seeing it or if it just wasn't as popular, there just wasn't as much of it. I don't know. I'm just seeing it a lot.
Yeah. And I'm not a big expert, but we're in the area where McCoy pottery, Roseville pottery, and all that was made.
Ah,
And I'm not an expert on it. When we go to auctions, there's people that know what they're buying. And the pieces I acquired just come in a junk box. I just got a junk box Saturday full of pottery planners, and they typically don't really sell for that much. They want the specialty pieces, but thankful for Google Lens because I can at least check it and see if I have a good piece or not. But
are you doing the online auctions or are you just going in person?
I like to go in person. I've done one online auction, but there's a website called auctionzip.com. Are you familiar with it?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. And so you can set it to like within so many miles of your house. I just set it like within 30 miles of our zip code or whatever. And it'll tell you the online and the live auction. So of any day of the week in the month. So you can go to them. But we have two that happen almost every Saturday. And they're in our area, and they're about 15 miles from our house. So those are
Oh, fun.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where we go. Kind
Okay,
of get
now
to know.
is that the main way you get things to sell?
It is. You know, we used to do a lot more thrift store shopping, and we still do some. Our thrift stores in Holmes County are really good. The prices are still pretty reasonable, although they're raising their prices too a lot more. But the I think an auction's fun. I mean, it's just like you get this box of junk and you pay $3 for it, and there have been so many treasures in there that I had no idea what they were. You know, when I bought it, that's not why I bought the box. But, you know, with Google Lens, I just snap a picture of everything, you know, just for instance, a few weeks ago in this box was this phase 10 dice game, you know, in a
Yes.
little tin. And I was like, oh, I bet the grandkids would like this, you know, to play. And then I snapped a picture of it. They're selling for $40. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, find another game they like. This one's going on eBay for $40. And then I went to look at my games and I had one and they both have sold. I mean, they sold really fast. So
Yes, and I know about that from the group. Somebody posted that a while back, and it's in one of my books.
oh,
You know,
okay.
because I study my books too, and it's like, and I've started dabbling in the online auction stuff now that I'm rural, and there's just not many options. But it's a good thing because it's pushing me into something new. But
Right.
um, yeah, that's all this research I've done for my books. It's like, wait,
I
and
know.
things are starting to show up now. But yeah, that phase 10 dice game, especially if it's sealed, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a card game. It's like, why is it so
I,
valuable?
somebody said they don't make it anymore, but I thought I saw some newer ones on there. I think mine was from 2009 or something like that. I mean, it wasn't like a really old game or anything, but that's just a for instance. I wouldn't I don't know what we did before Google Lens. I mean, that's just been an amazing, amazing you know, I can't, and I often try to tell people about it when I talk about eBay that, you know, then show them how to use it, especially people our age. They haven't really got into it or, you know, don't really know how to use it. So it's so
Well, I
easy.
have to tell you my belt buckle story because,
Okay.
on the group, people post, oh, this was part of an auction lot. I didn't even know it was in there. It wasn't even in the pictures or whatever. And so I bid on a lot of belts. It was 3 belts. One was full rattlesnake. One was
Ooh,
full leather with a rattlesnake buckle. And then one was just this nondescript black belt with a silver and what looked like fake turquoise stones, like a southwestern belt.
right.
And I really bid on it for the full rattlesnake because I knew that was.
It's going to be valuable.
And
Yeah.
so I won the lot of 3 belts for $23, so a little over $7 a piece. The full rattlesnake sold in 2 days for 125.
Wow.
And then the silver one, I was like, this is probably just crap silver, like fake, mixed metal. And I started examining it. Well, it had some markings on the back.
Whoa.
It said nickel and silver Bell, and Bell is the brand. So I looked up the buckle itself sells for like $80.
Wow.
And I just took it off the belts because it was just a nondescript leather belt. Like, I'm not listing that. Whatever, but yeah,
Hard to photograph. That would be much easier with just the buckle, right?
that was the surprise for me was you know, that was valuable and it was mixed in. And I thought it was just going to be a redonate item because it was.
Right, right, right.
But I feel like these auction companies, the online ones, they don't have time to
No.
photograph every single detail of every single thing. And I think it's just the ultimate game of I Spy when you're
It is.
shopping those online auctions is like you're zooming in and like, what is this? And there was another lot where underneath something was something Pan Am. I was like, oh, what is that? And you can go preview, but it's an hour away from me. So I'm just flying by the seat of my pants and just watching things and zooming in and researching. And but every single thing I bought so far, there's been a surprise in it.
in it. Well, and that's the fun part. To me, that's the thrill. It's like a treasure hunt,
Yes.
and you just have no idea. And it always makes my day. In fact, this morning before we got online here for your call, we had unpacked the van from Saturday's auction. We were bringing all the stuff in to wash it and go through the treasures and that sort of stuff. So that's, to me, I do it because it's fun. I mean, obviously we all love the money too, but it's that thrill.
I can't believe me, the thrift store person, because I never had to go any further than thrift
Uh,
store. Now I've been pushed into this new way of doing it. But Sunday I won a lot of 70 packs of vintage playing cards. And of course, you couldn't
oh,
see all of them, but some of them
yeah.
are cigarette, some of them are celebrity. I didn't see any naked lady ones because those go for a lot. But
What?
I'm like, 70, and they're small and they're easy to ship and they're
Yeah,
collectible. And so
yeah.
as soon as we're done here, I'm hitting the road to go pick up my
You're gonna go get
and
it.
yeah, it's fun because you can justify what you can see in the pictures. Like you know
Yeah,
you're gonna make your money back, but then what else is in there?
yeah.
And it makes it a little more exciting,
It
And
does,
you
it
can do it
is.
sitting at home, you know, having your favorite beverage while you're online looking for
Yep,
stuff.
exactly.
If they
I
were closer, I might go in person. Maybe I'll find some that are closer. I'm still figuring things out here, but let's talk about some things that you sold, because you seem to be quite the eBay veteran, and you're out there hustling it, and you know a lot.
Well, I'll just start off with a really early story. I love this story just because it's fun. But way back when we first started on the eBay, my husband, we used to go to auctions and for eBay, but then there was a lot of great stuff that we were like, this is going so cheap. This is, and he had just recently retired, and we have another old property at the end of town. So we opened a junk shop basically. And it was
Mhm.
just like stuff that we were not going to put on eBay. It wasn't worth the time or the effort, or it was too big or whatever. And he loved it. He'd sit out there in his chair, and people would stop by and he could yak and do whatever with them. And one day somebody called him and said, hey, our neighbors took out their old clawfoot bathtub and it's out behind their house. They're going to send it in the trash. You should get it. So he said, you want to put that on eBay? And I'm like, how on earth are we going to ship that? And he's like, well, just do local pickup, or they have to, pay to crate it. So he went and got it. We put it on eBay. It only sold for $60. And it was
Mm.
going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which we had never been to. And it was going to cost the people $300 to have a freight company come and crate it and take it up. So I messaged them and said, hey, for $300, we'll put it in the back of our van and drive it up to you. Or maybe I lowered the price by $25, whatever, someplace around there. And so they were like, okay. So I said, the stipulation is you have to pay ahead of time. I didn't want to get there and then have them say, yeah, we don't want this. So we did. We took the seats out of our minivan and he took the legs off of his clawfoot bathtub. We shoved it in there, drove it up to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, had a lovely vacation on that $300 they paid us to take it up. It paid for gas and our hotel room for a couple nights up and back. And we thrifted our way up and thrifted our way back. And so that was a lot of fun. One time we were at an auction and there was a laundry basket. And in the laundry basket was grandma's artificial leg and
Oh,
all these pads and stuff that were with it. And I was like, I don't know anything about it, but this was before Google Lens, that might be kind of interesting. So we bought it for $5. It ended up, we did sell it. We sold the artificial limb, but the pads, the gel pads that they actually put on their, the stump or their leg part of it were what were valuable in there. And so we ended up making like 400 and some dollars on that basket. And, that
oh
was
my
just a
God.
strange thing to kind of, to get.
So wait, the leg itself sold.
It did. Yeah.
Okay. And don't you wonder who buys that?
I do, but I sometimes think like, sometimes some of these missionaries and organizations that go to third world countries, like the Lions Club does glasses and then
Right.
they can fit them to the person. And I wondered if that maybe was what happened. I remember getting a note from the one lady that said these pads, these gel pads are very expensive and our insurance won't cover it. And, that's why she was buying these for her husband.
Mhm.
It was just interesting to learn about it. It was a whole subject area I'd never dealt with or learned anything about.
Mhm.
And
Well, and I
that's
think
the other
too,
thing.
and dentists too, they buy these old things, and they may have a display in their office, the evolution of dentistry, or
Oh, yeah.
if the artificial limbs, just for interest conversation piece in their office. They might have a little, gallery glass in area
Right,
where
right,
people can see stuff, or, maybe they're just interested.
right.
And people collect all kind of things. So
They do.
you never know.
Absolutely. They
It's
do.
just, I just always wonder, my brain's always like, what did I buy that for? Why did I
I
buy,
know. I
you know?
know. I know, and I'm always too nervous to ask him because I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll just leave that well enough alone," but I'm like you. I love it when somebody does give me that feedback, that or kinda tell me what they were gonna do with it, or
Well,
I don't
I'll
know,
ask them after they receive it and leave feedback.
feedback. Oh,
And
that's
like,
smart.
I'm
That's
just
smart.
curious, because I do think it makes you a smarter seller when you know why these things sell,
I
what
agree.
people are
That's
doing with them. Like the old hardware on dresser drawers and cabinet hardware and stuff that it looks like junk because it's old, and people clean it up and make jewelry out of it, or use it in their remodel in their farmhouse or whatever it
right.
is. And once you know why a
Then
buyer
it kind of
a buyer group wants these things. Something popped up the other day that people are repurposing something for, and it is a new trend that people are doing this. And this happens all the time. It's like, what is the thing they want now?
yeah,
And it's
exactly. Well,
valuable.
for instance, my husband, we were at an auction and somebody bid on something and didn't want, or they didn't take everything, but there's a pile that you can go back and dig through if you want it. And it was the old shoe last from when they used the wooden shoe last. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a form that looks like a foot. And they used them. They're from the industrial era, but they would make shoes with them, kind of
Oh,
like
okay.
mass produce them. And I think he picked up 7 pair. They were all the same. And I put them on, with a quantity of 7. They've probably been on a year and a half. And no question, no offer, nothing, just no interest at all in them. And all of a sudden in the last 6 weeks, we've sold 3 pair. And I got once to make an offer on another pair. So I said to him, I don't know, maybe somebody on TikTok is showing people how to make shoes or something all of a sudden. So that kind of goes along with your story. Like, what's the new
It might have
trend?
been what it was. Oh, it was someone on a previous podcast that was talking about the betting from the Full House show, the little girl.
Oh, I heard her. Yes.
Yeah, and it was like all of a sudden people know what it is and they want it.
I want it. Yeah.
Or somebody on TikTok did something with a little stuffed animal, and it was like a Walmart stuffed animal from a while back,
I
and
heard her say that.
all of a sudden
Yes.
everybody wants it. And
Yeah.
I am not a TikTok person or an
I'm
Instagram
not either.
person. So I I don't know. I guess I don't really have time to do any more social media,
I know.
and
And, even
um
Instagram, I can't figure it quite out. Every once in a while, something will pop up. I'll look at it, but I don't really get it. So,
I know I'll go on there looking for things that are being eBayed, and the next thing you know, I'm following a coconut cake recipe. I get so distracted by all the shiny
the
things.
rabbit hole, the infamous rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah. I always seem to end up on recipes for some reason.
Using up
Anyway,
his eggs.
yeah. Using up my eggs. I don't know. I've given up on that. They're just everywhere now. I don't know. Somebody was like, "You should water glass them. You should do this and that." And
Takes a
I
lot of
don't,
time.
I don't want to. I don't want any more projects. I just want somebody to come eat them.
I get that. I do get that.
Yeah. And then when the garden starts coming in, it's like, oh, I can make salsa and pickles. But then I'm like, I don't really want to. I want was in my 30s and we lived in Tennessee on a farm and we had the big garden and I made everything. That was my Martha Stewart period. And
Oh,
those canning days are just long days on your feet and it's messy. And I'm
yeah.
old now, so
Yeah.
I can just buy
Kills your back.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a garden story. When we bought this house, there was a big garden in the side lot, and we neither one grew up around gardens. We were city kids, and our parents didn't do gardens. And my husband's like, let's put a garden in. We're like, okay. So we started buying all these seeds. We had no idea what we were doing. We put a row of zucchini in, a whole
Oh
big
gosh, that's a
row.
lot.
So, and the zucchini is the only thing we got. And we didn't know that you pick them when they're young. We thought the bigger the better. We'd go out and we'd say, look how big this zucchini.
8-pound zucchini.
Oh, we had zucchini out the wazoo. My grandmother came to stay and she was making zucchini bread.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that was our only garden. After that, we were like, yeah.
Yeah. One summer we overplanted green beans and we were just don't waste anything kind of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
One we put up 100 quarts
Oh,
of green beans that summer. And it was just the bane of my existence. And to this day, I just really don't care. That's not my vegetable of choice.
I was just going to ask if you can eat green beans anymore after eating that many.
Yeah, it was just we had them forever. And it was a good thing to learn that sometimes you just can't use it all,
Yeah.
And then my neighbor, she's like, yeah, you don't plant as many. And this was this old farm couple. They knew everything. We're so fortunate to have them. They were like, yeah, you just make end of the garden soup at, the end of the summer, just whatever you got out there, you just make soup out of it and nothing gets wasted. But, yeah, we were a little over excited to plant and it was way too much. So
I understand that. I can sympathize.
anyway, back to eBay. You have another eBay story for us?
Let's see. Well, I told this one on the Facebook group. I don't know if you want me to tell it again, but we were at an
Sure.
auction and a Floby came up. Do you know what a Floby is?
Oh yes, we
The
call it
hair thing.
the suck and cut. Hair up the little hose and then it cuts it.
Yeah, well, this is at our regular Saturday night auction. We call it our date night. It's where we go
Uh-huh.
every Saturday night that he has one, and you know everybody there, and you just go to eat and have fun. Anyway, the Floby comes up, and they really didn't have much else for us at this auction, and he could not get $1 out of it. And I'm sitting there waiting on him, and I'm thinking, Floby, I know I've heard something on one of the groups about that, so I bid $1. And my husband turned around and looked at me and he's like, do not get any ideas about cutting my hair.
Oh.
And of course, the auctioneer's like, Dave's getting a haircut, Anyway, so I got in the car. I said, I think I remember hearing that these can sell for a good bit of money. So I kind of quickly looked it up and they do. If they're new, they could sell for up to $200. This one had a couple broken parts on it, but it still sold for $80. So, it was a lot of fun.
That's a great flip. Yeah. And I think maybe it's just the novelty. Like people remember that commercial and how ridiculous that product is.
There's a lot of them on eBay that have sold.
Yeah, I know. And you wonder, is that just because it was a novelty or are they really using it?
Using it? I don't know. I didn't ask.
I don't know. I'd be a little cautious about using that, but
Who
that's
knows?
yeah. Yes, the Floby. Gosh, the
Floby.
commercial is ridiculous.
Thing
Yeah.
recently that we've been working on is my husband bought an old Schwinn bike from 1966, and he's had it in his garage, in the junk garage at the other end of town for years. And he was homework taking it apart one day. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm going to take this apart. This seat I think will sell pretty good on eBay. And it did. We ended up selling the seat for $450 off of it. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
And I said to him, that was great. That was a good find. He goes, yeah. And I remember you turning around and looking at me and giving me that look after I bid on it at the auction. And I'm like, well, just ignore my looks if you can make that kind of money. I think he paid 95, but we're still parting it out. He sold the speedometer. We sold the speedometer for 10, or I'm sorry, 50. And there's some other parts he's still taken off of it, to get it sold. So
Yeah, and I saw on the group, Ginger Lambright posted some bicycle seats.
I saw those.
I think she got them at a garage sale for like $5 a piece, and she sold them for 300.
I know.
I mean, it's just the sky's the limit.
I know. I couldn't believe it. And I said, it's just sometimes a matter of just taking a chance. I mean, I can't tell you the number of things that we bought to take a chance to, though, and turned right around and redonated it, to the thrift store or something.
Yeah, that happens. I bought some of those, what I thought were the Norelco replacement heads, the round ones that are and they were in a box lot, and I was like, oh, that's gold. Well, I bought them, got them home. They were used. Somebody had used them and put them back in the box, and I'm like,
so they weren't any good.
Well, that's part of it. Win some, you lose some.
Yeah, chalk it up to a learning experience.
Stick with the belts.
Sounds like the belts are your thing.
Yeah.
You sold other belt buckles and done really well with them too, though, right?
Over time, I've sold some. Yeah, that's something I look for is, that one, the alligator one.
Yeah,
that one I bought for the belt because it was ostrich, full quill ostrich.
Okay.
Bumps on it, and it was an extra, extra large. So it was really long. And it was at Goodwill, and it was the half price color. And
I remember you saying that.
Over a month. And I got it home, and I was like, what's this? Turn the belt buckle. It was two alligators that hooked together. And I was like, oh, there's some writing on the back of here, and got my magnifying glass, found the guy's name and looked him up, and his name is Jeff Deegan. And that's what he does is he designs silver, precious metal belt buckles.
Belt buckles.
And that belt buckle was $1,200 brand new. And it ended up selling for around $300. It took a little while, but somebody just bought it for full price. That was one of my high sales. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that it made it to half price day, that no one found
nobody looked at it. That's just, have faith that you're going to find things, because it is frustrating for stores now. Just everything's overpriced, or there's just not much to pick from because they're putting a lot of it online or whatever. But that's something I look for all the time now, because it's in my world of small, easy to ship. All
that's my realm too. That's my realm too.
For remembering that was several years ago.
Well, I remember I listened to it on one of the podcasts, I think.
I do tend to repeat myself.
Yes, but somebody new might not have heard that.
That's true. And you look back at your big sales and you remember them.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
So how many items do you have for sale? And do you have a store?
We do, but I have 3 stores. Well, 3 IDs that I sell, and 2 of them have stores. And I would not do that again. I did it. You know how we all thought we had to kind of specialize a little bit or whatever. But then you have this problem because you can't really combine them unless you end them and do your pictures and move them over. And I have, my main store has, I write that down, 433 items in it. And then I have this other store. Do you remember Jay and Ryan's mom talking about?
Yeah.
She wanted to go, they went south. And then she was like, what am I going to do with my eBay store? And she wanted to take it with her. And I thought, planning ahead, I thought, you know what? I'm going to start one of my stores and put stuff that I could just fit in boxes and take with me if we ever want to go winter someplace. So I have another eBay store that has 233 items in it, or 211. And everything fits in 8 banker boxes, and these 8 banker boxes fit on this collapsible shelf. So I'm like, well, yeah, we could shove those in the minivan, and put them on the side, and they're smaller, easier to transport items or whatever. So I have that one. And then I have this other brilliant idea. We have a little Class B camper that we travel in. And I'm like, Well, no, if I had stuff that would fit in a shoebox, I could. So in this other store, it's everything that'll fit down in a shoebox, like a postcard or, little things.
Mhm.
And it only has 29 items in it, and it hardly ever sells anything out of that. And I have yet to take that on vacation with it. So I would not really recommend that. And it's a
Well,
pain because then I have to check 3 IDs every day. You know what I'm saying? To
oh,
see
right.
or
Well,
to
the first time I heard of people having a mobile eBay store was, gosh, many years ago. There was a lady that sold postcards, and
right,
she intentionally designed her business to where she could fit everything in her van because she would go to Arizona for the winter. And she was from like Wisconsin or something. And I just thought that was genius. I'm like, yes, you don't have to be tied to one location if you plan and figure it out ahead of time, because that's happening more and more where, um, people go on extended vacations, or they, snowbirds in
right.
Florida and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's a great business model if, but you got to think it through.
You
Well,
do.
I like your idea of just creating an account just for that stuff. So you could put your other account on
On
hold,
vacation, yeah.
and everything else, the work's already done. You can just leave it there and
Yeah,
then take your little things with you. And um, it's a brilliant idea. You just have
I
to
know.
figure
Have
it
to
out.
think it
Except,
through.
like, for the
Well,
average person, you got to think through everything you're buying and listing. Is like, where's this going to go? Which store is this going to go in? Is this mobile or not?
yeah. Well, and, like, it is, especially we like to thrift like a lot of people do when they go on vacation. That's kind of a fun thing. For us, it's a way to see a city. We're really city people. We like to see towns and explore them and stuff. And when you look up thrift stores, it gets you into areas of town that maybe you wouldn't get into otherwise. You
Mhm.
see a lot of different stuff. So that's fun for us. So anyway, that's kind of what the whole idea was. Although really, truly, we have not done that yet. But we've only ever gone for 4 weeks at a time, and so it's not really been anything that we've tried, but it's there. I have these 3 IDs that I'm not so sure was
You're all set when you're ready to do it. Yeah, exactly.
found a Gillette Atra razor at the bins, still new, sealed in the pack. The pack was dinged up a little bit, but I think it probably cost less than $1 at the bins, and it went to England, and it's sold for I think $175 or $150. So yeah, that was fun.
So that's a like a stainless steel razor, or is
No,
it?
it was just one of those disposable, not disposable razor, but you know how the blades slide on, you know what I'm
Yes,
saying? One of
yes.
those. I mean, it wasn't a safety razor or really anything special. I just picked it up and threw it in my basket because I knew that some of those sold, and I thought, well, it's not going to cost me very much to try to find out about it. So I did.
So where do you go to the bins? Is that close to you?
We have just had in the last year and a half one open that's only 15 minutes from us. So
Oh
and it's
no.
kind of in the middle, kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're kind of a rural area, so we don't get so much of the big city crowd there. Um, no, we have had one for several years in Columbus, which is about an hour from us. So we have, gone there, but it's a lot more people. There's, a lot more people there and a lot different, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. We like that.
And you
We
find
usually
good things there?
we do. I always find something. That's where I found that Phase 10 game, was
Right, right.
one of the ones I found in a bin. The other one I found at the in a box lot. But I was trying to see what else was on here that I've got at the bins.
I
I
started
took
doing that too, thanks to the eBay community for pushing me to
I heard you were
try it
starting with that.
again. And it's not that I mind digging or anything. It was just the first time I went, I hit it on a bad day. There just wasn't much in there. And it was not, I was disappointed.
Yes. And that's hard to get past. And always tell my friends when they want to go, like I'll talk about it with them. And I don't have any other eBayer friends really. Well, one maybe, but I always say it is not for the faint of heart. If you are somebody who, if you're used to at the Goodwill stores, they're organized and fairly decent and clean and stuff like that. And I always say to them, the bins are not for the faint of heart. You have to have a different mentality to be able to go in there and dig. And sometimes it's pretty gross,
Yeah, and it seems like everybody's looking for different stuff.
Yeah.
I see people that they're looking for stuff for their home.
Right.
And I think I mentioned this before, these two guys that all they wanted was Levi's jeans, and that is not in my
Radar.
house at all. No, I don't want to do that. I've done jeans in the past, and they don't excite me.
I know. And that's
That pretty little
that,
thing that somebody's gonna love.
yeah, that's exactly right. And that's part of the whole thing. It's that feeling, that thrill that we get from it. And if it doesn't excite you, if you're just cranking it out, that's not fun. I don't know. It's not enjoyable, and I'm not going to stick with it. I know I'm not. I'm just that way. So I'm sure.
And just because you can make money on something doesn't mean it's right for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. One of the things that I was going to talk about, and I posted this before on the group, is embroidery hoops. That was something I did not know was valuable until I looked it up one time. And I found that by accident. But since then, they're on my radar and I see them. They're easy to ship. But the mega one that everybody wants is the Queen. And it's a wood embroidery hoop with a metal knob on it. And it says Queen on the knob. And I have sold two now one for $4.99. And then
$499 to clarify that. Yes.
And we spent 50 cents on it at a thrift store. But when I found that at that thrift store, it was the only thing I found there that day. But I always go straight to where they have their embroidery hoops. And I picked that up. I was like, my heart just started pounding. That
the IKEA lady, start the car.
It was. And I got in line and this lady said, "Oh, that's a neat embroidery hoop." And she kind of she wanted to hold it and look at it. And I was antsy while she was looking at it.
I'm so nervous. You're like, I got to check out fast and get this to the car before anybody knows what's happening.
You're right.
Yeah, I found out about those Queen embroidery hoops. That is in one of my last book.
Okay.
Who would have thought? I could not find why they're so valuable other than they were. And I don't know why.
They're very well made. The wood, when you pick up that wood that they're made of, it's polished and it's a feeling, just a really quality feeling to it. But I don't know what I'm not an embroiderer, so I don't know but I've looked up the history. I've tried to research it, and I don't find a lot out about why they're popular.
No information. Maybe it's something on TikTok or Instagram that we missed. I don't know.
I don't know.
But,
and the other brands in that are Princess and Duchess, and and they will be stamped on the outside, and often they don't have any kind of metal tension on them. They're just a solid wood ring. Now they will sell typically from $50 to $75. They're not, but if you're only paying a quarter or 50 cents, that's still a really good.
But you got to wonder how many of those Queen embroidery hoops are out there in somebody's sewing bag in a closet because the person is elderly and they can't do it anymore. And maybe they have 5 of them, or when's it going to show up in front of us?
I know. Or my sad part is how many family went in and said, "Oh, these are just old wood embroidery hoops," and they threw them in the garbage.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that. Like, how many are in the landfill that we'll never see again? When you go into an estate sale, and it was an elderly person.
I know.
And you just,
it's sad. And that's what's fun about, like you said, finding them in the wild, that somebody took the time to at least donate it. And that's why I try to tell my friends, tell your kids to at least donate it. Don't just tell them to back the dumpster up. Because, so many of our kids are our age, the kids just don't want any of it. You know, we've talked about that a million times before. And I'm like, my kids are going to back a dumpster up. My husband will say, well, let's save this for the kids. I'm like, they want the money. They don't want the thing. I'm like, you might as well sell it. You know, they just don't want
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Or call me when you back that dumpster up. Let me sift through it before you throw it in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least send it to an auction.
Yeah, somebody put a post about they bought a whole bunch of greeting cards at an auction maybe a year ago, and now they're just getting
Going
through
through.
them, and they don't have a clue on how to value them. And I think it was Hydra and Tobin. She says, "Oh, I can solve that real quick for you. Just give them all to me."
I'll figure it out.
I like that answer. Oh, no, you don't need to do any research. Ship it to me. I'll pay you for the shipping. You know. Yeah.
It'll just eliminate your problem.
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, we have time for one more eBay story or advice or whatever you want to say.
Something else that these are just things that are good sellers that people might not know about. Those velvet backed metal picture frames that we grew up with, they sell
Yeah,
pretty well, $25 to $35 range, some a
really.
little higher. Yeah, and do you remember the margarine bowls from the 70s that we all used them for cereal and popcorn and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff? They sell really well. I can get $50 out of 4 of them if you can find them. So check grandma's
Really. So,
cupboard.
what
Yeah.
was that brand where it's not nice to fool Mother Nature or something like that? We just thought that was so funny.
I bet it was chiffon. I bet it was chiffon. The other thing are we've talked about baby blankets, but the Beacon baby blankets too, they're kind of woven. They're not the waffle weave, but
Okay.
they're a woven blanket and they have that same tag on it. It doesn't have the name of the company, but it'll say WPL 1675 on it and it'll made in the USA. They all sell really good. I just sold one for $64 and they
Really?
sell 50 or 60 and you can often, I mean, I find them when I say often, probably 3 or 4 times a year. So
Oh, good. And so it
yeah.
has a label on it that says,
It's a little paper, you remember the old 70s, the paper tags kinda
yes.
almost, yeah, but once you see one, sometimes they don't even have the tag anymore, and I can still sell them because you can tell what they are, but,
Mhm.
they're like a woven baby blanket. The other thing is the raffia, however you say it, those woven trivets, the
Yes.
ha
Yes.
they sell really well. I'm like, I can get $25 out of a set of 4 of them or, but you can pick those up pretty cheap if you can find them, anyway. And old Tupperware, you already know about it, it's easy to look up. There's a stamp on the bottom of all of them. You can just look up that number. And one of those tripod salt and pepper shakers, remember those from the
Mhm.
60s and
Yeah.
70s? I just sold one of those for 50. So
Really?
yeah, so
Wow.
all Tupperware is valuable. A lot of it we have an antique booth too, and a lot of it I take to our antique booth. It sells there
Okay.
better, but anyway.
Okay. Well, that is a lot of great information. Thank you so much. Did you want to
Yeah.
answer one of the questions at the end?
Well, I am reading the Bridgerton series by by Julia Quinn. Yeah, that's my genre. I love historical romance, and anyway, so she's a great author. So of course, we're all excited. I don't know if you watch the Bridgerton on Netflix, but anyway, we all get pretty excited
I
about
have
it.
not gotten into that. No.
Oh, well.
I do know that if you save all the books, you can sell them as a set.
Yeah, there you go.
Eileen
I'm
Cole is probably out there going, she can sell those what she said.
actually, I don't even buy the books. I get them from the library because I'm too
Oh,
cheap
there
to
you
buy
go.
them.
Okay. That's even better. Free reading. Yeah. Good for you. Okay. Well, thanks again for coming on and taking time out of your day. What are you up to this afternoon?
Well, our grandchildren are here. 2 of our grandchildren are in from Georgia, so we're running some errands this afternoon, and then I promised one of them we'd go roller skating tonight. Not
Oh,
me.
good
They're
for
roller
you.
skating.
Okay. What part of Georgia are they from?
They live near Peachtree City, Fayetteville,
Yes.
south of Atlanta. You know where that
Uh-huh.
is.
Where all the pilots live.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an easy drive to the airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
They
nice
have
area.
one of them just graduated from elementary school, so we went down for that and brought 2 of them back with us, and
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah.
Good.
So
Well, enjoy your day and your
thank
time,
you.
and
All right.
we'll see you on the group. I see one of them peeking over your shoulder right there. You got Okay.
All right.
We'll say
Thanks.
goodbye. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Bye.
And now on to today's trivia question. Since Cheryl mentioned the tragedy of good resellable items ending up in landfills, which I'm sure we all wonder about, how many tons of trash is in landfills across the United States? Here's some time to contemplate that. Okay, the statistic I found is that the landfills in the United States account for approximately 146 million tons of waste, which includes the following items. 24% of that is food. So that's not really a tragedy for us as resellers. It is a tragedy, but we can't really resell any of that. Plastics make up 18.46%, so I'm quite sure a lot of that is resellable stuff. Paper and paperboard are ephemera items. Those old recipes and postcards and letters makes up about 12%. Metals make up about 10%, wood 8%, textiles 7.73%. Those could be your vintage linens, your embroidered napkins and tablecloths and all of that beautiful stuff that sells very well. And then we get down to rubber and leather is just under 4%, and other is 2%. So I try not to think about it, but it is really a tragedy how many things end up in the landfill that we could rehome, repurpose, recycle, sell, get in the hands of someone who would treasure it. So I hope that didn't ruin your day. Okay, next week my guest is Josh, who sells on eBay in addition to his job working on a ranch. He has some major scores, including silver items and books, and he's definitely one to learn from. So make sure you tune in for that episode next week. Thank you all for supporting this podcast and returning every week to listen to the latest seller chat. I hope everybody out there has a fantastic week on eBay. Bye for now.